Let's get back to the Zoom feed here and bring on Elsa Perez from the Department of Public Health and Social Services. A long time coming here for these the CARES Act funds that are going to be made available to child care providers. Bree running this story back. I think there was a Facebook post from Congressman St. Nicholas where he had called out the inaction really with these funds, and we've interviewed a bunch of child care providers on this show, and so that they've now finalized all the application process and the rules and regs and whatnot. And that being said, that's why we're bringing on Elsa to talk about the process here. So good morning, Elsa.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So today is the first day, right, that people can apply?
Correct.
Right, okay.
Yes, the announcement should be in the paper today.
Right. So take us through the process.
Okay, so a licensed childcare provider or licensed exempt provider can request through our office for an application packet, or they can email our office. We have an email address, which is childcare@dphss.guam.gov. They can request for an application packet. Once the packet is complete, they can drop it off or they can email it to us. The application is due, the final submission date is August 31st.
And so what is the, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, who can apply? This is just for child care, daycare facility owners. And what is the money supposed to be used for?
Those who can apply are licensed child care providers or CCDF or licensed exempt providers. Some calls that we've been receiving, they wanted to get clarification. So is it only providers who have children who are under the CCDF program? And no, that's not the case. If you don't, or you've never had children under the block grant or CCDF, you're still eligible to apply.
And how much funding total is out there for eligible recipients, and how much should each facility expect to receive if approved?
Okay, so the CARES Act, it's a supplemental grant to the CCDF block grant, was 6.4 million. So individuals or providers who apply, they can apply up to 100,000. It's up to 100,000, meaning depending on their type of documentation, verification of type of expenses they anticipate would be what we would determine the grant amount. So it doesn't necessarily mean you want 100,000 that you would get 100,000. It needs to be justified as to the amount to get.
Okay.
And is there any type of post-award audit process that's going to go on for these the grants?
Oh, yes, definitely. That's the reason why we wanted to ensure that, all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, because although it seems like a very easy grant to give out, it sounds very giving. The requirements are very stringent. So that's the reason we're wanting to make sure, should we get audited, everyone will be in place, to include the applicants.
How many applicants are you guys anticipating?
Well, right now we do have 47 licensed providers. So if there are more that become licensed, then it's possible there'll be more. That's what we're looking at.
Okay. Is there any sort of what sort of information do they need to provide when they apply, like documents or things like that?
So what we're looking at is initially when they apply, they're going to need to submit the justification as to the expenditures they anticipate that they will be encountering throughout the term of the grant. And we're looking at the grant going up to September 2021. So that's like, depending on when the sub-grant is signed, if it, let's say, for example, it's signed in August or September, maybe it'll be like 12 months disbursement. So we're looking at monthly disbursement. So we are needing receipts to, documentation on the type of expenses. And if we go back and say, well, we need to verify, are these expenses real, valid? The expenses also need to be, and also in addition to that, they're going to need to get a DUNS number. Mm-hmm. So there is a process. The DUNS number is a requirement for an entity of there to get a sub-grant. And we've went back and forth on this with our grantor because it is a different process. We're hoping that it only would take 2 days. We give all the instructions on how to apply for that. But it is a requirement in order for us to disperse or in order to make this type of grant available.
Elsa, you're giving people a month to apply now after the application process closes. What's the timeline from that to people getting money?
Okay. With regards to getting the money, so once the application is turned in, so we're looking at August 31st, that's the due date. Once the application is turned in, we would review it and then submit it for, there's documents that would need to be signed. The final signing off on the sub-award or sub-grant would be the governor's signature. Once it's signed, then the money could be dispersed. Once we get the justification documents, we review it. We look at, we give ourselves like 30 days. If anything, if we can disperse it earlier than the 30 days, then we'll do that. But we have a time frame of 30 days for the first disbursement.
Right. So it's 30 days from the time that the application is processed, or 30 days after the deadline of the August 31st that we would see checks.
Because upon the deadline, then there's also the review of the application, and then actual signing off of the documents of the grant, and then review of the justification of their expenses, and then we would disperse.
Also, how would you answer those, very valid criticisms that people had that it just took too long and we got the money in April, here we are, April, May, June, July, 4 months. So if you could, and I'm not asking you to, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but maybe give us a little insight and tell us why did it take so long?
Yes, we're always getting asked that. So it was, the process really took a long time in that because we were really going back and forth. A lot of it, we had conversations with the federal counterparts, both our fiscal and our program counterparts, plus we were getting guidance because the program site also, we also had to ensure that on our program site that if we require something, it's also applied in policy. So the transformation from where we started initially, when we planned this, it was 50,000. Then the application transformed several times. The language transformed so much because some of our language wasn't tight, meaning, and when we say tight, not tight in the sense that we want it to be difficult, tight in the sense that we are meeting the requirements of the grant to ensure that should we get audited, should our grantee get audited, our docs are in place. So yes, it did take a long time, but the packet itself, if we have a 95-page reference guide, it's really wasn't an easy, it's not a simple grant. The requirements itself was very complicated, at least for me. I'm not And this is the first time for me to do actually a sub award. So going through this process was very different. I've been through RFPs. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not making any excuses, but for me, that's what took it so long. I needed to make sure what we were doing was correct.
Right.
And so that's
Right.
the reason for
Thanks for that, Elsa. So, 30-day application period. Are you confident that these childcare providers are going to be able to go out and get everything they need in order to apply for this, which you just said it's a complicated process? Are we anticipating in any way extending that deadline like they did with other, programs that involved the disbursement of CARES Act funds?
I don't want to say that we're meaning to extend the application date.
Right, because people are saying, oh, it took 4 months to get it, and now we got a month to apply. Which I mean, and on the flip side, it's very easy for people to say like, oh, well, if you need it, what's the holdup? But then again, you're saying on your own end that yeah, they got to have this, they got to have that, they got to get everything in order. So I'm just wondering if they have enough time to put in a good, clean application in 30 days.
Oh, that's my boss test calling me.
Oh.
Test. Okay, sorry about that.
Are you in trouble?
I want to be flexible, but at the same time, I don't want to say, yes, we will, yes, we won't.
Right.
A lot of the things that have been coming out of our office or has not even come out of our office has been misinterpreted. So at this point in time, I like to just see how the flow goes.
Okay.
And if necessary, based on I would have to get the authorization.
Right. No, I get you, Elsa. I know you're probably just thinking like, Lynette, it's our first day and already asking if they're going to extend. I just had to get it out there. So,
but that's a good question.
Right. Is there anywhere that people, the child care providers who are listening to this, how do they go find out more information?
So if they have any questions, they can actually email it to us. We would prefer the questions be submitted to us in writing. That way we can compile to the questions if they're similar, and we will respond back in writing. So that email address that I had mentioned, the childcare at dphss.guam.gov, that's the email for our providers or anyone who's interested in getting an application. That's the link or email they should use.
Real quickly before we let you go, can you just provide us? You were talking about how these childcare providers have to provide information about their expenses. What are approved expenses?
The expenses need to be reasonable and necessary. This is what we have in our documentation, and allocatable as it relates to the childcare facility. So as long as the expenses relate back to their operation as a childcare facility, then those and they can justify those expenses, then that's reasonable enough for us to count towards their requests.
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question.
I mean, maybe some specific examples. So we saw when the government of Guam first got the CARES Act funding, there were a lot of purchases made for like teleworking, laptops and the big TVs. So are you saying that the child care providers will be able to make these types of expenses as long as they're able to somehow say that it's justified because they need, the big screen TV so the kids can watch Dora or whatever?
Yeah, well, it's justified also in documentation. Let's say, for example, they're saying they're going to be paying their mortgage. And this is just an example. The facility is partly their home and the daycare. Then they need to justify what percentage of that mortgage is going to be applicable to the facility. I hope that answers your question.
All right, thanks, Elsa. We're going to let you go. Any final comments? Any other information you wanted to get out?
No, but just thank you to all the providers. Finally, it's here, and we're ready to take in those applications and do the best we can.
All right, thanks a
Elsa.
lot.
Thank you so much, Elsa. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining
Thank
us
you.
and going to work early.
Okay,
Very nice to
thank
talk
you.
to you. Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Are you in trouble with Tess? Do we get you in trouble? Because I don't want to get you in trouble.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
We're very kind.
Okay, you just tell
Take care.
if Tess gets mad, tell her Godson Chris said, never mind, it's okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Anybody who has any questions or needs more information or go and apply, the email again.